When I was living in Ukraine, I lived in Kyiv. My parents had enough money for buying not a bad apartment, I could eat my favorite food, and probably my parents were rich, because my childhood wasn't poor. Right now I'm 18 years old, I come to Japan and live in Osaka. And maybe you want to ask me, kid, are you rich? Or maybe your parents give you a lot of money every month? And actually I'm not poor. And I also not rich. But how about usually Japanese people who were born and live in Japan all their entire life? Luckily, I studied at a Japanese high school and we have a cool teacher. That guy likes to speak about his life and he also likes to speak about his experience to work in Japan. And I was shocked because actually Japan is more poor country than people actually think about Japan. And them kids, let's get started.
I am kid, you are kid, we are kid, I am kid.
Old people in Japan. If you will live in Osaka in Japan, first time you couldn't understand why all majority outside looks like more than 16 years old. And you're not wrong, because around 30 and 40% of people who live in Osaka is most older than 50 years old. And around 30% of people in Japan have already more older than 65 years old. If you think it's not something unusual and this information don't give you any image about Japan, I can understand your feeling, because when I come to Japan I was the same. But when I have already lived in Japan around 1 year, probably your question will be looks like, where is all young majority? Am I alone in Japan? This problem is not only a problem for people who want to come to Japan and have wishes to make a new Japanese friend, because in 2023 Japan doesn't have enough workers and work power to improve her economic situation. And probably if Japan couldn't change the situation, in the next 10 years Japanese economy will crash. Work and salary in Japan. Okay, maybe you already know what it means karoshi in Japan. If not, it means die at the workplace. And actually Japanese coworkers really die at their work desks because they have zangyo, which means overworked time. And maybe you think these coworkers do overwork because they want to have more money. You're right if you are speaking about white company. But if you work as a black company, even if you will work around 14 hours every day and can wake up only with a cup of Red Bull, your salary doesn't will change. Because it's a black company and they just will try to do everything for get more profit from your work. My school teacher who told me about his self-stories about his experience of work at the black company said sometimes he worked more than 14 hours in 1 week and hoped to get more money. But he worked at the black company and after 1 week of hard work, all what he gets it was headache, broken relationship with his girlfriend, and yeah, he quit to work at that company because he can get more money than he saw. It was a story about work as a Japanese black company, but how about white company in Japan? White company is better than black company because it's white company, but actually it still doesn't change a lot. You will still need to work more than usually people in other country, and sometimes you also couldn't get your bonus. Maybe it's why phrase about Japan like Japanese coworkers live for work, it's still really famous. Because if Japanese don't work, they can't live in their own country, rent and house in Japan. After university, a lot of Japanese students start to work, and some guys even decide to marry it and buy their own house. It sounds so romantic before your debt didn't become your nightmare. Japan is inland, and have your own house in Japan means you're a okanemochi, or just a guy who have a lot of money for buy own house. It's why a lot of Japanese people prefer to rent house or apartment in Japan. And probably it's better than buy house and after that pay for house all your entire life. But if you don't want to live in really small town, have chance to come to Tokyo every time when you want, it will be cost you a lot of money. If you even was born in Japan and you're Japanese who work in Japanese company, usually Japanese apartment which you can rent nearby Shibuya or maybe Akihabara, or another Japanese neighborhood will cost you around $2,000 in every month. And it will be not bad apartment, but if you will rent apartment around for $800 or maybe $1,200, you probably will live in box apartment where you can only sleep and sometimes take cold shower. Maybe you also have a dream, come to Japan, buy your own house, make family, live with your cute wife and your Japanese kids. And I don't want to destroy your dream, bro, but if you will buy a house in Japan and you'll pay debt every month, this dream will destroy your mind and your body. Because if you aren't a millionaire with a lot of money, probably it will just a dream which never will be true.
I hope you are not crying, reality is so strict, bro.
Study in Japan. What you have already know, I am an ordinary student in Japan and I am at last study year at Japanese high school, which after I will graduate and I am going to study the Japanese university. And be honest, if you usually student or even you are Japanese or are also going to study at the Japanese university, you will need to have a lot of money for pay your university, and Japanese university is not something cheap. If you check how much usual Japanese university costs, you will be shocked because it's more expensive than study at cool university in other country. It's why in Japan students work already at the last study year at the high school and going to study at the university can get a shogakukin. It means you can get money for study at the Japanese university, but you will need to return this money after you will graduate at your university, and it's also a lot of money. It's why a lot of Japanese students decide to don't go to the university and started to work at convenience stores or another part job, because your anime university life will be have only cup of ramen, mountain of homework and work at the convenience store 8 hours every day after university classes, because you need to return your money for study at the university. It sounds worse and like typical students like, but it's actually hell for people who grew up at poor Japanese family. Tax in Japan. And after all this shit, I also want to add tax in Japan. If you work in Japan, you will need to pay a tax. And if you think it's not a lot, be ready to pay around $6,000 for paid tax in Japan every year. It's usually tax statistic and maybe it will be changed if you will have more salary. So when you finally will happy to get your first salary in Japan, around 20% of your salary you will need to pay for payment your tax in Japan. It sounds just insane, but it's actually true, and Japanese also really dislike this system. But in Japan, all things which you cannot change, Japanese prefer to say "shikata ga nai ne," and just try to don't think about why his tax is so high and their salary is so small. I also think to work in Japan, but be honest guys, sometimes all this stuff about black company, overwork time and tax and low salary also make me super scary, so sometimes I think to don't work in Japanese company and make videos for YouTube. Here was Kid and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel, destroy button like. See you, bye bye.